Alright, Travis Wayne Goodsell, the third session review of April 2024 General Conference. And if you've forgotten, Nelson tried to do away with the third session, but he tried to do away with it to prevent the women's session from occurring in October. And I exposed it, and it got out, and women were upset that they were getting silenced in the church, despite Nelson having changed the temple to appear to be catering more to women. Oh, women, why are you so easily fooled? And so they brought back the third session, but were angry with women and me, saying that they can do whatever they want. And they're right, they can, and they have over the generations, as conference used to be as long as 4 and 5 days with a welfare meeting back in the farm days. But yeah, they've kept the third Saturday session now. But as you can tell, no more priesthood meeting. Guys are not complaining about that. Even though the tradition of fathers taking their sons out to ice cream afterward was a staple in the church. And that tradition and cultural practice is gone now. Among many other cultural practices, Mormons are no longer a culture. They are only a religion, and an abominable one at that. And so, no, we are not like more Muslims. Muslim is the culture, Islam is the religion. The nationality depends on where the Muslim Islamists live. So the church lies, and Mormons dies. 1 Nephi chapter 1 verse 2. The Book of Mormon, as the keystone, is telling us that the religion is Jewish, not Christian. 2 Nephi chapter 3 explains the Jewish concept of a Christ. Messiah ben Joseph and Messiah ben David, not Jesus. This is why Joseph Smith called Christianity an abomination. You cannot replace the Jews if you're going to keep the Jewish scriptures. You cannot replace Joseph Smith in the Book of Mormon if you keep Joseph Smith in the Book of Mormon. You become abominable. Section 107, verses 91 and 92. And apparently we need to go over it because of a cousin to my cousins who was a dumbass. We'll get to him. This is the authority of the Jewish religion. verse 91 to 92. And again, the duty of the president of the office of the high priesthood is to preside over the whole church and to be like unto Moses, the Jewish type and shadow of the Jewish Christ for their latter days, which is section 110, verse 11, the keys of Moses, and section 103, verse 16, Joseph Smith's prophecy of Messiah ben David to Mormons in the latter days. The Jewish version of the latter days. No second coming of Jesus. No authority from Peter, who's supposed to preach the Jewish religion from the Jewish Book of Mormon about the Jewish Christ. Not the keys of the kingdom. There's the keys of the kingdom right there. Moses. The prophets lie to you. And so the prophets, not having the keys of Moses, cannot be seer, revelator, translator, and prophet. Those are the gifts. The fruit, which means you have to have a seed and produce the results, the fruit, so that you can be judged to be the head of the church. They ain't got it. They claim title. Wikipedia, the church put in there, we do not claim to prophesy or reveal the latter days. Then why are we called Latter-day Saints? This is because of supersessionism, the replacement theology of the first creed of Christianity of Constantine that Brigham Young embraced and turned the nature and character of Jesus to non-Trinitarian, but kept all the other abomination replacements of the Jews. And Mormons, because this is your doctrine, this is your theology, this is your administration, this is your religion, Mormons have missed their Christ for the latter days, with 2 days remaining until the final end of the latter days. Mormons have missed the coming of their Christ and will never know that they've missed him. This is the great tragedy that will live in infamy in the history books. That Mormons had all of the Jewish scriptures with prophecies and revelations, and Joseph Smith as their founder, who said, you guys are going to be the people of the fulfillment of all the prophecies. And Mormons rejected it and refused to believe, and will never know what they've missed. All these years, doing all these videos, doing battle with this church who sought to silence me and have succeeded, who have punished me for just simply trying to warn you. And they've won. They have succeeded in blinding you from the truth so that you have no clue that you missed your Christ and there will be no Zion. And so the Book of Mormon prophecy of the Jaredites and the Nephites is the fate of Mormons. And they may never make the connection because they've turned the Book of Mormon into literal history, just like Christians did to the Bible of the Jews. And so, you're being raised up to believe in a false Christ. This is why you've been taken away from the true Christ. And you will not know him when he came. You didn't know him when he came. All the prophecies have been fulfilled. And now, because Mormons have chosen, the consequences will follow, and Mormons will be utterly destroyed. And I'll be forced to flee for my life, trying to live in a cave. And so I Feel My Savior's Love by Evie Clare. All those little kids being indoctrinated away from their true Christ. And they have no clue that they are in the great and abominable church of Lucifer. Literally. It is the fulfillment of the Book of Mormon. So, Nelson didn't show for the third session. Only for the second. Renlund conducted, and again, I have to remind you, because you're most likely new, it's the 100th session, not the 194th. The first session of this church was in April 1924, obviously, to be 100. It was under Heber J. Grant. He incorporated the church in November 1923, after conference that year. They deceived the Mormons into having Mormons believe that the church was never destroyed from the face of the earth by the United States of America for their tithing crimes, turning polygamy into sex trafficking, and other crimes such as human trafficking and granting citizenship when Mormons pay back the slave price. Oh, dear God. And so the concept of the gathering, the guy that was giving the prayer, exposed this of the church, is that because they don't have the keys of Moses, only the keys of Peter to preach, and they're preaching falsely ever since Brigham Young. The keys of the gathering have been interpreted incorrectly to mean people joining the church, i.e., paying tithing. They still haven't stopped the financial crimes that they were shut down for. And so the keys of Moses for the big gathering of the Exodus is gone. The church has destroyed Mormons. They have missed their Christ, and they never even knew him, so they'll never even know they missed him. So, Shane Bowen, cousin to my cousins, through most likely his father and my cousin's father, Milo Bowen. My cousins were Brad and Michael, that were more of my age, more so Michael. As Michael and I shared an apartment at Rick's it was before my mission. Yeah, Ensign Peak, Ensign Hall. After I had my own apartment in Ensign Hall, and then got conned into sharing it with Michael. And Michael, while I was on my mission, stole my stuff. Because he and his wife got married in Southern California, stayed at my parents' house in my bedroom. I got home, all my stuff is gone. And he confessed that he stole some of my stuff. He didn't confess all the stuff he stole. My mom most likely purged a lot of it. My sister confessed to stealing all my cassette tapes, which was in a pretty tall box that was a good size. I had a lot of cassette tapes. BMG in Columbia House. Able to get a lot through that process. But nonetheless, gone. Even my arcade game that I created. It was a cardboard box, but gone. Anyway. And so, yeah, he outright lied to you guys. I read to you from the Doctrine and Covenants. Not a single Mormon can argue with me. If I were face to face with Shane Bowen, I'd be able to point it out to him, and he'd go, "Oh crap, I was wrong. Yeah, no duh. He lied." And he also skipped translator. Because Kathy Bowen, one of my other cousins of the family of Milo, married Phil Niebuhr, descendant of the Niebuhr who was from Germany, who helped teach some more Hebrew to Joseph Smith after he joined the church. Just unbelievable. What Mormons will lose their integrity, referring to the first conference session, to claim loyalty for the church. To outright lie to Mormons. To have Mormons perpetuate the lie. And never even know what the actual scriptures say, let alone the Joseph Smith papers. Mormons just hear Mormonism and then go and spread it. Not a single Mormon will actually look it up in their scriptures, look it up in the Joseph Smith papers to know the real church history, to know the real source of the Doctrine and Covenants. And so, he's whining and complaining that he got locked up in jail on his mission. Wah. Try getting arrested by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, your religion that you were born and raised into, and then be locked up in their concentration camp. Shh, it's a secret. They don't want the government to know it's here. For 6 years. Not just a couple of days. because he would have had the church pleading with the government to plead with that other government to release him. And he didn't explain how he got released. He blamed it on the magical powers of his patriarchal blessing. That he's supposed to get sealed in the temple when the prophets don't have the keys of Elijah to seal anybody, and thus to cancel sealings, as was the other talk. Which there's more abomination with all that. I'll get to that. And so, yeah, I'm just so furious over this one, because it caused me to cry. Because during that 6 years of my incarceration, how to design, build, and run Zion was revealed to me. And I didn't think I would be ever freed to put it to use. And in 2014, I was miraculously freed because of 3 key retirements. Not magical powers of a patriarchal blessing or supernatural powers of priesthood, of authority that is not existent in this church. I know the causation. And I thought, wow, there apparently is going to be a time where I'll be able to use this information. And then sure enough, 2014 was also when the tetrad began. Perry Packer Scott, bite the big one. And I'm going, oh, curious. I wonder if that's going to lead to something. And then November 4th, 2016, Fox 13 News, Utah. Announces the total solar eclipse over the United States of America. And I dropped my jaw because I knew what that meant. That the start of the latter days had begun. And I was the only person on earth who knew. And so I knew that it was my responsibility to warn and to instruct as many as would listen. And 2 more days, and it's over. You missed it. It's all in vain. All my sacrifice. In vain. You missed it because you didn't believe. And so the Bangerter, Stephen Bangerter, of which the Bangerter Highway is named after his family name, talked about the youth of the noble birthright variation that Mormons have replaced the Jewish Christ. He talked about private happy times. The young woman leader. Oh my hell. I'm sure all of you have heard about Biden after the State of the Union on a hot mic saying that Netanyahu needs to come to Jesus. Do you understand how abominable that was of our president? Exposing himself as an anti-Semite. And so I only have yelled at Nelson and Oaks at the computer monitor when they talk. This was the first time I was yelling and swearing at another leader of the church for their comments of hate. And she was female. She talked about David and Goliath. And said that David put his faith in Jesus Christ to slay Goliath. And then talked about his stones for killing to be used by children to slay others who won't believe the church. Step aside, Holland. Your musket fire just got replaced by a woman in the church. And it pissed me off because after the conference, the camera panned on her and the other priesthood leaders flirting with her as she was joking it up about how awesome a talk she gave. And I can hear in the background somebody told her, "Well done," as they were doing it to others too. Either "well done" or "good job." And so, yeah, you don't encourage that kind of abusive thinking. But the prophets of the church did. The church encouraged the stoning of apostates, of heathens. And in case you're unfamiliar, both the Jews and Islam use stoning as a form of punishment. Not just from the David and Goliath story, but also in the Jewish law. And so, I don't know if you're aware about Iran, but they have a morality police. And a couple or so years ago, they stoned one of their female girls, underage girls, because she did not cover her head. She was stoned to death because she did not cover her head. And here we have a Mormon woman talking about stoning people who don't believe like Mormons, which is already an abomination. That's what Joseph Smith talked about in verse 19 of his first vision. That replacement of the Jews is what's abominable. That's the first creed of Christianity. It's not about the nature and character of Jesus. It's the whole thing. And so, just as a reminder for you, the Sunday school lesson that would have been for tomorrow is about Jacob. You're not getting taught about Jacob. The burning, which is tomorrow, 2 days. Now, granted, because humans have to do it, humans always are subject to failure. As Nelson failed to destroy the United States in 2020's election, so they're doing it again this year, and this year they're going to make sure they do it. But obviously they've failed to assassinate and silence me, haven't they? At least so far. But they've succeeded in blinding Mormons to their death. And so then the guy that followed her, sealing is for exaltation. Nope. Yep. He talked about section 131, and you've never bothered to look in the Joseph Smith papers for it, have you? Joseph Smith is talking to, apparently, Benjamin Franklin Johnson, Danite, or he would become a Danite. Although this is 1843, he was already a Danite. He was deceiving Joseph Smith, because Joseph Smith was talking to him and his one wife that Joseph knew of. Joseph Smith supposedly was sealing Mormons to multiple wives in 1843. Nope, wasn't. Section 131, he's talking to a monogamous couple, saying they will be exalted in the highest degree of the celestial kingdom. But Brigham Young is the one who gutted it when he put it in the year before he died in 1876, along with section 132 that replaced the original section 101 from the 1835 edition, which was on monogamy. And so that whole part is gutted from here, because now it talks about the covenant of marriage, everlasting covenant, and then boom, section 132, everlasting covenant is polygamy. Everybody must obey the law or die. And Nelson brought it back in 2019. He didn't mention that. They lowered the age of a girl to get married now to 11 from 14. This church has no authority to seal or to cancel a sealing, obviously. And so he blew it on what cleave means. It means sex. They're told a man and a woman leave their parents and have sex and produce babies. The Book of Mormon. Adam fell that men might have orgasms, because you're supposed to have babies. If he didn't fall, they would have no children. The fall is to have joy, to have children. Not to raise them, to have them. Then after the woman conceives, you now have misery. And so, yeah, he said, no porn. It is sexual abuse to miseducate people on sex, to lie about the science behind our bodies and how they function and how we reproduce the species. It is abuse to then go further after miseducating to then order the abstinence of the natural process of our bodies. But he said porn engenders lust. And so he says cause to give rise to a feeling, situation, or condition. That is false. There is no sin against lust. But Travis, that's scripture. Whosoever looketh upon a woman to lust after her hath denied the faith, and blah, blah, blah. Nope. Gone over that numerous times. A woman is a married woman who's had babies. She belongs to some other guy. Hands off. No touchy. No looky. Find a virgin. That's what it means. It's okay to lust after a woman, because that's how you have orgasms. That's how you cleave. That's how you have babies. That's how you have joy. Porn is not a cause of our sexual desire. Our sexual desire is already programmed. And it's very disturbing when I hear all the news stories, especially after the rise of the woman in 2020, of the Me Too movement, which ended with some ruined lives of false accusations. The enemy knows how to destroy a movement. But nonetheless, when you are not being taught proper sex ed, whole bunch of negative consequences result. And thus women don't know about the sexual nature of men, let alone themselves, and men don't know the sexual nature of women, let alone themselves. And so when you got religious leaders who are lying and making orders that your sexual nature is evil, problems ensue as the cause, not our sexual natures. Porn is not the cause. The Book of Mormon musical helped explain that through the farcical way. Men cannot turn it off. Once we hit puberty, the machine keeps running 24/7. Just like for women, once they hit puberty, the machine keeps running, but only once a month. For men, every 7 seconds. So I heard. I sort of doubt that. I think it's more like 2 or 3. But yeah, everybody is screwed up. I was going to do a video this morning before conference. It was going to take too long, so I didn't do it. And I'm hoping to retire after Monday. Mormons missed everything. Dear God. So yes, it's sex abuse. But as he was talking about the cancellation of sealings, I'm going, he's speaking to my second ex. Because, let me repeat this again. If the president of the church does not have the keys of Elijah, because he doesn't have the key of Moses to be the president, he does not have authority to seal, and thus he does not have the authority to cancel a sealing. That's the key of Elijah. Seal on earth to be sealed in heaven. But Benson came out and told women that no blessing will be withheld from faithful women, talking about them being single. That goes clearly in the face of the keys of Elijah. That's why the Jews had arranged marriages. And I have heard many an older singles ward sister wish that the church would employ arranged marriages, even polygamy, so that they can have a husband. Because the Book of Mormon makes it very clear, if the work isn't done in this life, if you do not repent in this life, you don't get it for free without any effort in the next. You have to be sealed in this life. But don't worry, the church doesn't have authority. Your sealing is null and void. I refer you to section 132 by Brigham Young, not Joseph, concerning other marriages. That's this church. Remember Beeman Mote. And so the church is abusing women yet again. And then with Uchtdorf, oh my hell. Leave women alone. They already call you the silver fox. I don't know why. It's a woman thing, I guess. But yeah, there was a commercial. A woman with her daughter was in a grocery store, and she sees Martin Sheen, and she calls him the silver fox. And the daughter is looking up at her mom, getting all grossed out. Mom, oh. Who is this guy, and why are you calling him the silver fox? Nonetheless, dear God. So before we get to Uchtdorf, Amazing Grace, but it's not in the new hymn book. They hate everyone, not just women, not just blacks, not just LGBTQ, not just Jews, not just the poor, everybody. These are Nazis, old school Nazis. They hate. They want to control your lives, control your behavior. The psychologists, as Uchtdorf sent you to, that came from Nazi Germany in the asylum, and they thanked their American liberators by destroying America this year. Stanley Smith Stevens, Mormon from Ogden, did his work as a psychologist in Colorado, created the infamous dichotomous and non-dichotomous categorization of human behavior, which is a complete abomination. because it's nothing but fallacy. You can't quantify or categorize human behavior. It's not a cause. There are too many causes behind the human behaviors that we have. And thus there is no mental illness, people. If you've got a problem in the brain, it's medical. You need to go to a medical doctor. Stay away from psychologists. They're just drug pushers for the pharmaceutical company who are experimenting on you, like the Nazis did to the Jews. So yeah, that was a beautiful version of Amazing Grace, but they were placating blacks. And so, again, he talked about other ancestors of mine, but they are from a different branch off. We go back. My mom wasn't able to find which right family we tie into, but they are, but they're just distant relatives. Nonetheless, he's talking about higher joy. What's the joy? Orgasm. Nope, Jesus. And so he's talking about looking for love in all the wrong places. It says joy. But mental health, dear God, he's talking to women. Mormon women here in Utah are the highest per capita who are taking psychotropic depression drugs, who are now experiencing the side effects of heart problems. They're killing you because you aren't turning that frown upside down. Lucifer's plan is no orgasms, to deny your agency of life, liberty, and property, which takes away from allowing you to have orgasms. The plan of happiness is orgasms. The continuation of the orgasm. The joy is in the orgasm, not in the raising of the kids. Though I loved raising my kids for as short a time as I was allowed. And so, yeah, then he didn't seem to understand the woman with the bleeding problem. If you're bleeding for 12 years, you're dead. Women cannot have a bleeding problem and last long. Women who bleed during pregnancy don't survive. And so this is not about her having a bleeding issue for 12 years. It's about her being unmarried and the stigma that comes from it. And Jesus, let her. It's a higher level learning, guys. Just understand that. It's tied into Sarah being an old woman. No, she's not old. This woman would have been 22 years old. That's old in their time. They die at 30. All is in vain.